I was just so worried about my own survival. Because again, this goes back to upbringing and how, especially we come from challenging and traumatic childhoods that many of us do. We get in our own survival mode. So we're used to solving our own problems. And when you bring those into leadership, you're not there in leadership to solve your problems. You're there in leadership to solve and accomplish the mission. And how do you take care of the mission? By taking care of your people.
Okay, folks, this is MK Palmore. Welcome to this episode of Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. This is a special episode. One of the things that I try and do during the course of these discussions about leadership is bring in other thought leaders, folks who are not only occupying the same space, but doing some really innovative work in the realm of leadership development. I feel that the field itself is important enough to bring in other voices. I don't want you guys just hearing from me all of the time. And in this particular episode, I get, again, the opportunity to bring in a friend, colleague, and someone that I've known for a very long time. So Robin Dreeke and I attended the United States Naval Academy together, went on to serve in the U.S. Marine Corps together, and also served in the Federal Bureau of Investigations together. Our careers in the FBI went in diverging paths, and we went off and did very different things. And Robin has been ensconced in all things leadership development and people development for a very long time. I think he's doing some interesting work. I think he's always done some interesting work in this field, and I wanted to bring him in for a conversation. So yes, another Marine, another veteran, someone whose voice it is that I hope that you will appreciate. This is a great episode with some great insights, and I hope you guys enjoy the opportunity to listen to it. So welcome to Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast with my guest, Robin Dreeke, retired special agent from the FBI, also a United States Marine, and now the CEO of a company called People Formula. Welcome. Robin Dreeke, welcome to Amplify, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. How are you, sir?
It is the best to be here with you, MK. Been many years, still many years to go, and just great sharing space with you again.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. For my folks listening, when they look up your background and they'll hear a little bit about it here, you and I have been treading the same water, same path, so to speak, for quite some time. But I will note that you, I think more so than me or others, really kind of leaned into this space of leadership and influencing people very early on in your career. Started to adapt to it, started to put out thought leadership, have conversations with people about it, and that's really kind of the core of the conversation that you and I will have. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, thanks, MK. And it's funny you couch it that way for me, which is very gracious. It's only because I failed faster and earlier at it than everyone else. And so, and my son's a Naval Academy grad too. And so we commiserate a lot over shared suffering and shared pain. And what the Academy is really great at is showing your greatest weaknesses and challenges you to do something about it. And so, yeah, absolutely. I leaned in hard on the leadership because I failed majestically earlier on in my life.
Yeah. So I teased it up in the beginning. Robin and I have known one another since at least I was 19. I'm not sure how old you were when you started plebe year at Annapolis, but we both went to the Naval Academy together, both served in the Marines together, and then subsequently both went in and served an extensive career with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So we share more than one or two things in terms of our professional backgrounds. And I've always respected Robin for his emphasis on leadership. Even as a special agent in the FBI and an executive, he leaned into the leadership piece and went off and started your own company. Talk a little bit about People Formula and how long that's been around, and what was the nexus behind coming up with that.
Thanks, MK. So it's actually a funny journey because, much like most of us, I didn't have aspirations to do what I wound up doing. Kind of took lots of different detours and road trips, but leadership was always at the forefront, and that is, learning how to best serve others. But when it comes to my company, People Formula, and basically me and what I do, I was very fortunate to serve my career, started in the FBI in New York, and I worked nothing but counterintelligence my whole career, which was recruiting confidential human sources and the layman's terms of spies, but, the intelligence officers that are trying to thwart our country's best interests. And I saw the immediate parallel between leading sources and leading Marines. It was so identical to me. I saw these sources as my staff NCOs, close relationship with a professional film there, that could
Right.
separate you and be objective. So what happened was I got on the behavioral team when I was up in New York doing this job in New York. I came enamored with that. I took transfers up and down around headquarters, FBI headquarters, and then Quantico. And when I was at Quantico, I started teaching this at the CI Training Center.
CI is counterintelligence for those listening.
Yeah, I apologize. Counterintelligence Training Center. And a good friend of mine who started the behavioral analysis program, one of the founders, was Joe Navarro, retired agent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe is a recognized international nonverbal expert, retired special agent. And he always, from the very beginning of his mentorship when I came on the behavioral team, was always pressing, hey, if you have at least one bit of knowledge someone else could benefit from, shame on you for not getting it to them. So he's always pressing on publish, write. So at his behest, I started writing some articles for a law enforcement bulletin on source recruitment and relationships and trust and leadership, and all in the same genre, basically
Right.
better communication. And as soon as I started doing that, I started getting asked to do outside speaking engagements. And so I had to go through the whole process of outside employment authority so I could speak on the outside. And then I got pressed to write a book. And so I did all this from like 2008, 2009 in the Bureau. So I had the double life.
And that's what I mean by early on. For folks who are listening and who don't know the hoops that you just described, that wasn't an easy accomplishment. There are folks like me who literally did not do those kinds of things because I thought that the obstacles to actually getting the approvals was just too burdensome. So I wouldn't even go through it. And I know many of us didn't, but kudos to you for pressing on.
And it became the first example of how to do this process. And that is, how do you inspire trust? And so I'm always asking myself in every situation, with whatever challenge I'm facing, you're facing, my kids, who are hugely successful, much more than me, I always ask, so what do I need to do to inspire them to feel safe to say yes with me? Whether it's a source recruitment, whether it's recruiting a spy, working with corporate America, and running the behavioral team, the first question I asked every case agent was, what does your management think of this case? What do I need to do to inspire them to feel safe to say yes to the operation we're proposing? And so with outside employment authority, I tackled it the same way. What can I do to inspire my bosses, my management to feel safe to say yes with me? How do I meet their challenges, their priorities, their needs, and be the resource they need for their success so they can allow me to be pursuing mine as well while we simultaneously do the righteous work. So that's what I do. I've written 4 books. I speak on the topics. I consult and do a myriad of things, but I more than anything else, I'm a dad. That's really where it all gets poured into.
That's where your leadership is tested, I'm sure. Hey, talk a little bit about the books. I knew that you had written, I think, 1 or 2 books. I didn't know there were 4. Talk a little bit about how they vary and like what inspired you to engage in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. The first one, it's actually being republished this next year in March under my current publisher. But my first one I self-published when I was actually at the CI Counterintelligence Training Center at Quantico. It's the How to Build Quick Rapport with Anyone. The title is It's Not All About Me. It's a quick 106 page, 25,000 word, nuts and bolts, 10 steps to quick rapport. It's what I was doing. I was training at the training center there, and it's a really popular book, self-published. That's the first one.
Yeah.
From there, believe it or not, I was approached by a literary agent, Inkwell Management in New York City, who had seen a few people pick it up, and they had read articles on it. And they approached me and said, hey, Robin, we like this first little book. We'd love to do a bigger book with you. Do you have any ideas? And I had already come up with the idea for the Code of Trust. Because once you have rapport, the next step for leadership, the next step for forging relationships is people need to trust you. And so I had my 5 steps of trust that literally was exactly what I was doing when I was running the behavioral team. Every time I had to write an article for the Law Enforcement Bulletin on counterintelligence. And I said, what can I do for the LEB, the Law Enforcement Bulletin, on counterintelligence that's not classified? I said, let me write about what the team does, because I thought it was some magical, mystical, Jedi mind art stuff that we were doing.
Yeah.
We came together to do these great righteous consultations for our case agents across the field. And what I learned very rapidly when I took that 30,000 foot optic back the granularity of it, was all we were doing in every case was strategizing trust. We're strategizing trust with management. We're strategizing trust with team members. We're strategizing trust with our partners that we're working with. And we're ultimately strategizing trust with the individual that we wanted to have the interaction with, whether it's a source recruitment, whether it's a double agent operation or an espionage interview investigation or a spy recruitment operation. We're always strategizing trust. And so I literally saw, wow, we're doing these 5 steps. So that book is that book is about. And then from there, the next evolution was, wow, when you really see the code behind the matrix of how humans prefer to interact, and you start really learning and getting the reps in of focusing on others than yourself, which was my critical vulnerability throughout my life. That's why I failed at leadership early on. I was so focused on my own safety, my own survival, and my own success, I didn't have reps on focusing outward, which is leadership. And so, but when this was going on and happening and getting these reps in, I started recognizing, wow, human beings are exceptionally predictable, and I can predict trust because this focus. And so hence the next book, Sizing People Up, came up, and this is assessing trustworthiness in others. And actually that starts out with my time in New York during 9/11 and the things I was doing and the aha moments that was creating both internally to the Bureau and externally, all for the success of all. And then from there, a couple of years later, that came out right as COVID came out. So that was fantastic timing. And then, but then this past year, all this led up to, again, it's a progression. These are what's called long narrative answers. I apologize.
No, it's all right.
It's a progression to what you put it all together, and what do you get? You get a strategy for great, healthy communication, leadership skills, but ultimately it brings you to the point where you're going to be able to forge unbreakable alliances. Because as one of the great many books I've read, The Courage to Be Disliked, I think was what it was in. And that is, all relationships, or all problems, I should say, are interpersonal problems. Meaning that whatever challenge you face in life, if you have a healthy, strong relationship with someone or more, you're going to work through that challenge. You're going to work through that problem. My son is a Marine Corps jet pilot right now. My daughter is a labor and delivery nurse in Northern Virginia, and everyone in my life. The first thing I ask when anyone approaches me with something's going on, especially in leadership, definitely in leadership, because that's what this is. The first question I ask is, who do we need to talk to? What relationships can we lean on? What relationships do we need to build to work this problem, to work this challenge? And so, hence, that's what Unbreakable Alliances is. So that's the arc. That's the evolution.
Yeah.
Whew, Robin can talk too much.
No, that's good stuff, man. Talk a little bit about, how do you evaluate when the necessary level of trust is present in a relationship? How do you gauge it? There's no meter that I'm aware of, but what kinds of signs are you looking for that maybe that indicate to you that I've done enough to build that foundational piece, and now we can extend into the thing that I actually want to do with you?
That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked it that way. First of all, I'm going to define my version of trust as I define it in my books. And trust, I don't ever really get into morals and ethics, because as we learned in the Bureau, you start judging other people's morals, ethics, context of how they see the world, you're going to have half the world line up against you. And when you got to make friends with everyone, it just doesn't work. So
it turns into a mess.
So you need ego suspension to be able to assess others, for where they stand from their point of view, from their context, which is deep, deep active empathy, I call it. And so I start out with, I trust everyone. And it's a continuum. It's not like I trust, like MK, are you a pilot by any chance?
No.
So I shouldn't trust you if I threw you the keys to the Cessna 172 I fly with a buddy of mine, to be able to trust you to not kill us if we go flying.
We're going to crash.
Right. But I know you're probably an accomplished driver, probably been doing it many years, and I trust you not to kill us in a car. And so I start out with a baseline. I'm going to trust you. Now I just have to figure out where and to what degree, to what level of ask can we give each other that that level of trust. And so in order to do that, I'm really forging a relationship, a healthy relationship. I'm baselining what normal and healthy looks like for you from your point of view. And then, like if we're getting to know each other, I'm asking a very simple starting question so I can understand how your thought process works, what the choices and decisions in your life are. I'm going to say, what was that spark and inspiration all those years that inspired you to be who you are today and arrive at this point? That's going to take us on a journey of understanding of that arc. And again, when you do so with that deep active curiosity, filling out these nooks and crannies of where this other person's coming from, granted, it only take a couple of seconds to really, or minutes to really kind of get that arc. And then I'm going to get a baseline of what healthy and normal looks like from an interaction with you. And then if we have an ask that comes up, whether you're asking me or I'm asking you, that ask, that request is going to be generally commensurate to the level of relationship that we have at that point. If I make a reach too far, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see some nonverbal stress that's going to be induced. I'm going to see some recoil. I keep it really simple. There's all these nonverbal cues that people love to focus on and memorize. But remember, if you're focusing and trying to memorize and see something, you're going to miss everything else they're projecting.
Yeah.
So I love being present without an agenda so you can actually see what's being projected. And the easiest thing to see in the world, free of an agenda, is a tempo change. Just look for a tempo change. If there's a slight tempo change, a modulation in the voice that stops, any kind of shift in anything, a shift in demeanor, any kinds of shift, that's meaning that there's a thought pattern change. You induce something from what you did. This is where we have Jocko Willink and Leif Babin's extreme ownership. This is where you induced a thought change. And you need to own whether that's good, bad, indifferent,
the result of it.
Explore it. So I start with trust with everyone, and then I just assess where we're at and how big of an ask can I do. And the biggest thing I'm doing, I'm extremely open, honest with my communication, transparent. I'll be vulnerable, saying what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And now I'm looking for the same in the other person, open, honest communication, transparency, and vulnerability. And if we have a good, healthy relationship, we're going to have a commensurate level of that. And again, following that continuum together of tempo.
Yeah.
It sounds complicated, but it's really not. It's just
it's actually
observing.
So because of our common backgrounds and my understanding of the counterintelligence world, you actually bring up an interesting conundrum, I think, based on your experience. And you actually kind of just touched on it. It strikes me as odd that the skill set that you're describing is one of building trust with people who are untrustworthy. In terms of their at least actions that led you to being in the same room with them, potentially, if you're trying to convert a source, if you're trying to get someone to do something against what was previously described as their North Star or their directional compass. But the art and skill of reading them and then getting them to adjust to your alignment and to act on your behalf seems to me like it cross purposes to the idea of building trust. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you digest that and still kind of march on?
I apologize. I forgot to continue to flush out the other element of trust for me. Trust to me goes beyond morals and ethics. Trust is predictability. And when I discover that life arc of yours about how you make your decisions, the things that matter to you, your morals, your ethics, how you see the world, I can now predict what you're going to probably reasonably do given every time the situation, especially if I've seen you perform, act, think, and make decisions once, twice, or three ways a certain way. The likelihood of you continuing on that arc is extremely predictable. That's what I trust. I understand how you're going to do X, Y, and Z.
I'm glad we got there. That helps.
Here's the real key that keeps us all extremely simple. Human beings are massively simple. Every single one of us are predictable. Every single person is always going to act in what they think is in their best interest,
right,
in terms of their safety, security, and prosperity. All you have to do is figure out what they think that is. You now know what they're going to do. And I can now trust they're going to do X, Y, and Z. I can trust you're going to do this. I can trust all these things because trust means I like you. Liking and trust don't go hand in hand. They might, but trust means I can reasonably predict what you're going to do in every single situation. And as a leader, I'm going to make sure I'm a resource for you to continue to be successful as you see it from your point of view, which means, hey, if you're incongruent with this job, I'm going to be the guy to help you move on to here. because I do not want you to succeed. I mean, I don't want you to fail, flounder, or have stress in this thing. And so that's why even with this, there's no even challenge. There's no bad conversations. It's always a conversation about how I'm going to be a resource for your success because you're incongruent to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you went in that direction because I did want to start veering into the topic of leadership, and you did it very smoothly. So, how do we equip managers and people with this skill that you just described? Because I think oftentimes as leaders, managers, call it whatever you will, either folks don't have the proper tools to understand the reference in terms of what their responsibilities are, which is to nourish, like pour into people that are on their team so that their productivity results in the thing that you actually want them to do, which is to produce that widget or do whatever it is that you're asking them to do. How do we equip more people with those skills, or at least the knowledge that there's a gap there that they're missing?
The tools and skills come through life reps. There's no doubt you need miles and miles of doing this. It's the journey of mastery, where you fall in love with the process every day without seeking a destination. You love the process every single day. The easiest,
the leadership student, folks. That's why. Go ahead.
The challenge though is the mindset shift, and it's actually a very, very. I really try hard to keep things simple for my brain that went to 4 academic review boards.
We'll tell people what that is later.
Yeah, so I almost got kicked out of the Naval Academy for academics 4 times because I'm such a brain trust. It's about the struggle, right? That place. Anyway, I digress. So I got to keep things simple because that's what people want. They don't want these overcomplicated things I got to memorize and I got to do, because if you think of what you have to change, it's daunting, and we can't. We can just be who we are. And what's easier to do is shift the mindset. And here's the critical mindset shift that I needed. And once I got it, everything fell into place. And then the reps started meaning something. And that was, kind of goes to that old adage. What would you tell your 20-year-old self that you know now that you didn't know then that would make all the difference in the world? This one's really, really simple. And this is what leaders need to do, remind themselves of daily, because it's so easy to get caught up in the problem and stress that's affecting you. If I could spend more time focusing on how to make the people around me successful instead of myself, that would have been the shift.
Right.
I was so focused on my problems, my challenges, my pain points and friction points in life. It wasn't I was callous. I was just so worried about my own survival. Because again, this goes back to upbringing and how when especially we come from challenging and traumatic childhoods that many of us do. We get in our own survival mode. So we're used to solving our own problems. And when you bring those life reps like I had of solving my problems into a leadership, you're not there in leadership to solve your problems. You're there in leadership to solve and accomplish the mission with people. I was just saying this on another show today. As the Marines say, mission first, people always. And how do you take care of the mission? By taking care of your people. You need to be a resource for the success of your people with that expectation of reciprocity. Know their challenges, know their pain points, know the things they're working on, and be the person that brings them the tools and resources to accomplish that mission, to accomplish that task, make their lives a little bit easier today. Take care of that morale, because when you take care of them, the mission's accomplished.
Yeah.
You're not solving the problem, they are.
You again touch on an area that I want to dive a little bit more deeply into. So I've been noted as commenting frequently on what I believe to be a process of maturation. I feel as though as I have more reps, more iterations, I become a better leader over time. And a lot of that has gone the pathway that you described, becoming less focused on my outcomes and more focused on the outcomes of the people that I'm working with. I think that's part maturity. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like we're a bit hard on ourselves. I certainly have been, in terms of like where I maybe was at the age of 22 or 23 as a young lieutenant in the Marine Corps, as opposed to the leader that I am now. Like if we're on a spectrum, I'm way somewhere different than where I was at that point in time. I recall never hearing the term empathy until I was well into my bureau career. And incorporating into my style of leadership well into my bureau career, Why is it that recently we're starting to understand what it is that you're describing? You didn't use the term empathy, but it's this idea that you need to get hyper focused on outside of yourself, other people.
Mhm.
That seems to me that happens over time, or at least it has for our generation. Do you think the current generation is getting that right out of the gate, or are they going to have to go through the same iterations and reps that we went through in order to get there?
Yeah, it's called, for me, I call it deep active empathy. It's a soft word, and so I think we're Gen X. Gen X doesn't use soft words. I think it wasn't part of our vocabulary because
Yeah.
of because I think a lot of things
Yeah.
are generational, and so especially as Marines, we don't adapt to words like that because that's why I call it
The
deep.
Marine Corps recently included it though
Now they do
in the
because
leadership principles, right?
right, but you know what it is? It's sex. Matter of fact, there's a chapter in my recent book. I don't call it the empathy chapter. I call it the context chapter
Mm-hmm.
because context is the same thing. Empathy is seeing the world through someone else's lens, their optic, their generation, their ethnicity, their
Right.
orientation. That's empathy, but it's also context. And so I use the word context because it's more scientifically neutral in my book. But it's because this is what we did in the Bureau. It's what we did in every situation as leaders. What does it look like from their optics? So why would they want to follow you? Why would they want to listen to you? Why would
Mm-hmm.
they want to do anything? The only way you can understand that why from their perspective, you got to understand what they see. What are their motivations? Then that's active empathy. And I do think this current generation is, I have my own confirmation bias. I have two kids who are doing exceptionally well at these things. My son, who's a young first lieutenant in the Marine Corps, is me today at 25
Right.
because it's interesting. Every generation has its thing. Our generation is a problem-solving generation by ourselves on our own, drinking from
Yeah.
the water hoses and all that stuff. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a badge of honor we have.
Key to the house around your neck in elementary school and out at break of dawn in the summer and not home until the street lights come home.
raising holy hell, almost dying every single day,
Yeah,
and
basically.
right. So, and this generation is different. But with this generation, what I've seen from tons of interactions is they're fantastic students. And so the teaching, mentoring, and guiding that we love to do as the more mature. It's, I don't mean it as in a degrading way. As the person that has more life reps,
Yeah.
being able to impart that to a generation much faster and easier, it's been really great. I mean, I see people in their 20s being exceptional rock stars. Now, granted, that's the ones that think they have something to learn because in order to start on the path of mastery, you have to realize you're not a master. And so ego and vanity with every generation comes into play. So it's just identifying the early students that you can get to. And it's get to it because again, as a leader, you're not telling people what to do. You're asking the questions for them to discover that path at their tempo and pace. Hopefully, and if you need to up that tempo and pace because of the mission, well, then we just need to have a conversation about tempo and pace and see if it's the right fit for you. Again, how we phrase in that entire conversation, it's all about them. Those four keys of communication I talk about relentlessly are the four keys that, if you don't mind, I'll relate my most famous second lieutenant story of my career that started me on
Let's
my
hear it.
path of that told me how much I sucked at this. So I get out of the Naval Academy, and I say get out because I literally finally got out. I graduated 2 weeks late because of a snafu at the registrar's office. And so I graduate 2 weeks late, and I'm thinking I'm fine, I'm good, I got this all down. I get down at the officer's basic school, and I get assigned to my first unit at Cherry Point, North Carolina, as a second/first lieutenant as a Marine Corps Air Support Control Officer, which is a horrible choice. I didn't choose that. 7th choice, right, out of 15. Anyway, I get down there, and my rating officer above me, a major, was a guy by the name, I'll even name him because I've been in contact with him since, and I thanked him for this. His name was Gary Warren, Major Warren. He was a company officer at the Naval Academy when we were there. Matter of fact, he stood with me at one of my academic review boards with now retired Lieutenant General Nicholson. And they stood by my side because they thought I was going to make a great Marine because I'm gritty, resilient. I
Yeah.
stand up, I fight hard. And my first evaluation, I got ranked dead last, 14 out of 14 second lieutenants. And he was my reviewer. And the only thing I ever had going for me in my life, MK, was I owned it. I had the Jocko thing down already. I went to him, I said, all right, sir, I suck. What am I doing wrong? First thing he says to me, he says, Robin, what happened to you? You used to be a great guy. And I go, hands up, I got no idea. I got no clue. My life rep said I was successful because leadership to me at that point was popularity, jocularity, extroverted, outgoing guy. I love people. I love interacting. But that is about me.
All right.
Popularity is about me. We're rewarded at these younger ages because, captains of a football team voted for X, Y, and Z. That's a popularity contest. That's not leadership. But no one was telling me this. And so when I get to the first unit, I was doing all those things, but I wasn't leading. And I said, what do I do? And he goes, that's easy. You just need to be a better leader. What? I didn't get it. No context because I had no framework. I thought I was. And I go, okay. And I'm flummoxed. I said, how do I do that? And he goes, and here's the key. He goes, that's easy too. You need to make it about everyone else but yourself.
Wow. What a gem, huh?
It was. And I've told him this story. He doesn't remember it. And I said, how, remember, I like granular things. This subjective art form is fantastic. But if you don't get reps yet, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, how do I do that? What specifically do I need to do? And in typical Marine Corps fashion, he goes, I don't know, figure it out. Gauntlets laid down. So what matured from there was the gauntlet for the rest of my life, which is how do I do something that I haven't been doing for 19 years, 20 years.
Were you genuinely interested in the transformation, or did you resist it at first?
No, I didn't get it. I always wanted, out of all things I wanted to do in life, the baseline was always, because again, that arc was, I wanted to be a great leader. I wanted to inspire others. I wanted, the whole Braveheart, the whole, that poet warrior that attracts Marines, right? And I thought I had it naturally because all these good intentioned morons in high school said, oh, you're a natural born leader. Nah, not even close. There is none. It's that grooming during those formative years. But I was so used to solving my problems that I didn't have reps in solving other people's problems. Hell, I didn't even know that people had problems. I figured everyone else had life easy by comparison. And so that's when the gauntlet's laid down. And I was genuinely concerned because, again, trauma does great things to us when we're younger in life. It teaches us to recognize when we're making a connection, not making a connection, because we're seeking out places to feel safe. And when people make us feel unsafe, boy, we know how to recoil. When people and places make us feel safe, we'll lean in. And so we become very adept, and this is studies proven this, people that are really good at human interpreting behavior generally come from a place where, hey, we had some struggles and challenges early on because we're used to assessing environments. I was very good. And I was very good at seeing when I was causing discomfort. And boy, did it bothered me immensely when I caused issues. I mean, I remember it wasn't with you, James Pico, a classmate of ours. There was a time on playing a sport called field ball at the Naval Academy. I wronged him. I body checked him or something on that field. And this happened back in 1990. I remember to the day the look he gave me when I did it, and it bothered me every day since. And so there are things, because you can read this. And so, yes, to answer your question, it bothered me. I wanted to fix this problem. So here's the things he couldn't tell me how to do, how to shift it. Here's the language you need for leadership communication to shift that focus from ourselves to others. Number one, instead of talking in terms of my challenges, my priorities, my pain points, I need to start talking in terms of yours. I need to seek your thoughts and opinions instead of pontificating about mine. I need to non-judgmentally be curious and validate your thoughts and opinions and what's going on in your life. And finally, I need to empower you with choices. Granted, those are going to be limited choices completely aligned with mine, but using that word if is so simple. Instead of saying, hey, MK, I need you to do this. Simple. MK, what do you think about doing this? If I gave you a choice between doing it this way or this way, what makes most sense to you? Instead of saying, we need to put this in place tomorrow, MK, what do you think about putting this in place tomorrow? What do you think the impact of that's going to be? See how that language shift?
Yeah.
And it's all doing exactly the same thing. But
the same thing, but it creates ownership in the recipient of
100%.
Of coming up with the solution as to how they're going to do something that you want them to do.
And they're part of it.
Right.
And also, the biggest thing you learn is, wow, a lot of people got a lot of great ideas that I have no idea about. So when you seek those thoughts and opinions, which is number one, seek their thoughts and opinions, talk in terms of their challenges, priorities, and pain points, validate them non-judgmentally, empower them with choices. That's how you get their brain to reward them for engaging with you, regardless of the content. because you're making them feel affiliated, you're making them feel valued, you let them feel seen, and it's all about them. The big four going. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins are going in the brain because you made that entire conversation about them. But the content, the core content of what you need to accomplish as a mission, completely the same.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen people have coming in to these great organizations naturally because of how they grew up. Other people's don't. But you can learn it through reps, through repetitions.
So when you retired, you went out and sort of put up your own shingle immediately. I'm just getting around to that after 6 years in the corporate space. Um, in the corporate space, I know you do a lot of talks on leadership and your perspectives and methodologies and frameworks. What are they clamoring for when you're being asked to speak? What seems to resonate with the corporate side of the house?
Yeah, the big challenges right now are definitely communication skills. It's So it depends on the type of company. If we're dealing with a tech company that does promotions from within, their executive manager right now is having a hard time with the communication soft skills, like we just talked about, to inspiring instead of convincing their people to do things, because convincing is about what I want, inspiring is about unlocking it from within you. So that mindset shift, becoming understanding how to become people focused so you can accomplish the widget focus that you need to do. So that's a big thing in those types of companies. Dealing with finance companies or anyone dealing with money and stuff and big clients and big deals, it's client relations are the huge challenge for companies right now, because the younger generations, younger people coming in without the reps are lacking in this. Their one-on-one communication skills are far behind just because they haven't had the vast number of reps that the generation that didn't have the ability to communicate electronically didn't have. Our problem solving came by, if we were lucky to pick up a hardwired phone on a long cord. When I came in the bureau with you, I came in 1997. If I was lucky, I was issued a beeper.
Right.
you know,
And we were very excited to have those beepers, by the way.
Yes. Meanwhile, 9/11 in New York, we're trying to communicate through beepers, and everyone else got a cell phone. So that communication skill set between internally and really the big thing is externally. How do you create client relations where the clients want to come with you? When you have 50 companies producing the same widget or providing the same service, what allows you to stand out? They want to come to you because they can communicate effectively with you. You make it about them. You're not going for a hard press sale. You're actually there to be a problem solver for them. That's the big mindset shift, is getting that maturity earlier.
One of the things I'm trying to tackle, because we do some leadership coaching at Apogee as well, is convincing companies that, in lean times, it seems like leadership development and things around professional development are the first to get cut
Yep.
from the budgets, which I think is completely ass backwards, if I can use that term.
Yep.
In fact, I think that during those lean times, you need to be doubling down on leadership development, because at the end of the day, that is what's going to be the secret sauce in terms of how you're going to actually increase productivity, get more efficient, get to the end game in a lot faster fashion. Why do you think we're why do you think we're okay as a corporate entity or corporate society with cutting leadership training? Why is it the first to get whacked?
I think it's fear. And we saw this inside the bureau in when 2013 hit. I'm working in counterintelligence, and I'm down at the counterintelligence training center. When 2013 hit and sequestration hit, the first thing they cut was training. And they focus on ops, which I understand. But if you don't have people that can conduct the ops in an effective way, then it all just falls to shit. Excuse my language there. And all organizations will do that because they think the bottom line is going to suffer if we focus on a soft skill, but they don't, because I talk about this a lot. It took a lot of time to understand how to articulate on paper and measurable things that someone can understand and quantify human behavior. In other words, sales is a great example of this, because they'll cut trainings because they need more sales, because the budget's been cut or whatever it is. We need more sales. We need to sell more widgets. And so we don't have time to train you. We just got to send you out to the field to go.
Yeah.
The problem with that methodology is that it's not going to be effective anymore, because no one knows how to communicate in terms of the other person. I'd rather have 5 great salespeople with 120% success with those 5 people who are going to bring me what? They're going to bring me referrals. They're going to keep bringing people in rather than 100 people out there going for the hard ask, making it all about what it is we want. That destroys the brand and just destroys everything. And so being able to articulate why it takes 5 meetings with this one individual versus you go say I only have 2 to make that sale. If you can articulate that on paper to the bean counters above that just want the sale and just want the stat, just want whatever it is, they'll say, well, this training that you're doing isn't worth it because I don't understand what you're saying. So just get out there and do it.
Yeah, I'm on a mission to bring light to this issue that this should be one of the last things that gets chopped during lean times, because I just feel that it's so prejudicial to business outcomes that we really have lost sight. And I'm speaking specifically about what I see happening in the technology space, because that's where I spent the past.
Definitely, that's where it's happening.
That's where I've spent the past 6 years, and I see so much emphasis on someone's hard skills and very little emphasis on the soft skills that actually. And I don't even like using that term, because when you say it, like, people tune out.
Communication skills.
Yeah, communication skills. I just see it as this sort of thing that needs to be nourished. It's like a plant; it's almost dead. But if you begin to water it, I promise you, it will flourish. It will bring you all of the things that you expect it to bring you. If you expect it to bear fruit, it will bear fruit. But it's got to be fed.
The easiest argument I've been using on that, I couldn't agree with you more. First, MK, the easiest argument I've been using is there's not a company or an individual I've ever met that doesn't agree that the most important thing that keeps your company alive is referrals. Because to survive as a company, I have running my own company, even though it's a small affair, I have 2 things I need to do. I either constantly need to have a new product with the same group of people that's going to buy it, or I need to have the same product with new people all the time that are going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I can sustain new product all the time is have a bunch of inventors and innovators that can constantly create new product to a very limited set of people that are going to get exhausted and bored with you anyway. So that model doesn't work. So you constantly got to be building your potential client base, regardless of whether you have new products or the same products. You need to constantly build that client base. The only way you build a new client base is either you have the most extreme perfect product on the planet that no one else has, or referrals.
Right.
The only way you get referrals if someone likes you. They enjoy talking to you. Even if they don't want to buy your widget, they're going to tell their friend, right, I didn't like MK. Well, I didn't like MK's widget today. I didn't need it in my life. But you know what? MK is a great guy. Oh, you needed such and such? I'll tell you what. Call MK. Oh, don't go to that company. They'll rob you blind. You know what? Go to MK. Yeah, you might pay a little bit more, but it's worth it, because I'll tell you what, I love the conversation I have with him, because you know about the family, you know what's going on in their lives, you are a problem solver, and you're a non-judgmental listener of their lives. You make their life a little bit. There's Robin Sharma, another great author I love. He wrote a great book called "Who Will Cry When You Die," and it's a very profound thought process on our mortality. And there's a great question in there that I love using a thought experiment on, and that is, think to yourself, if someone was to walk around the corner right now, who could walk around that corner and it would light up your life?
Yeah.
You're like, MK, dude, I love talking to your brother, but I got to go. My son just came around the corner. My daughter just came around the corner. I haven't seen him forever, and this is going to be the best conversation ever. So ask yourself, who is it? Then ask yourself, what specifically are they doing? Because there's behaviors behind why you feel that way that allows you to feel that way. And I guarantee you this, they're seeking your thoughts and opinions. They're talking in terms of what's important to you without judging it. They're making it all about you, and they're giving you choices. And I guarantee you it's that non-judgmental curiosity about you and what's going on in your life that allows you to feel that way. Now, the second part of this is ask yourself, are you that person for someone else? Are you that person for everyone? Are you that person for your clients? If not, what's one thing you can do today to start being that person? That's what brings in referrals. That's what brings in a company brand and a leadership brand that people want to be part of. Whether you're selling a widget or you're a company that needs to inspire better talent to come in, people will go. I mean, so here's my son. I suffer proud parent syndrome. My son is
No one's ever going to blame you for that.
I know my son is rock star, Marine Corps. He's down in Meridian, Mississippi, going through fighter jet training. He's at the end right now, and one of the greatest things a father can hear from both of his kids, both my kids say the same thing. I love what I do. I love doing it every day, and I love who I do it with. The culture is fantastic. What wants better? And so it's that culture. That great, healthy, strong culture. He doesn't care whether he was flying, whatever. It's a culture that he's living in right now with these people there for each other, taking care of each other, mission focused, people always. So when you hear that from your kids, that's an organization that's got some healthy people. That's where people want to go. That's why you can be selective then of who works for you. You can bring the greatest talent because you have that brand of you are seen, you're valued, you're heard, and we're going to take care of you because we're going to take care of the mission.
So monologuing. I want to start buttoning up the conversation, but you just touched on essentially the core kernel reason why I've decided to strike off on my own with Apogee and create this entity. It's around getting to that stage in life where I absolutely want to be surrounded by the people that I want to work with and for day in and day out. Like there's a certain not only freedom, but there's a certain joy that comes from, hey, I'm in the room, I'm in a conversation, I'm in a meet with someone who I want to be around. And there's a possibility we're going to be able to make some money while we do that as well. So I love it. Robin, this conversation, it exceeded the mark. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be, if not more. And I think there's more to be told. So for those of you listening, Robin is a well sought after speaker. Obviously, we talked a lot about his theories about leadership. He's also agreed, thankfully, knock on wood, to join our Speakers Bureau, the Apogee Speakers Bureau. So 100%. You can solicit Robin to come out and speak to your company, speak to your teams. He's clearly wonderful, clearly thoughtful about this subject. Robin, thanks for coming into the virtual studio, man. I enjoyed this conversation.
I got my goosebumps. You saw me do my happy dance here, because again, great healthy relationships make it all. And MK, thanks for being part of my life. Truly valued in it. And thank you so much.
Yeah, Semper Fi, man. Great conversation. That's it for this episode of Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. We'll see you guys out on the landscape next time. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation, which I'm sure you did.
Thank you for listening to Amplified, the Leadership Student 2.0 podcast. If you're ready to elevate your personal leadership and drive your team's success, connect with Apogee Global RMS for custom coaching and development solutions. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of impactful personal leadership strategies. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and empowering those around you. Together, we'll amplify your success